In just a minute, I'd like to introduce you to Chris Cashman. Chris is someone who took Mark Helm's Quick Start Self-Storage Boot Camp a couple years ago, and like to do an interview with him, and I'm not a very good interviewer, but you can meet Chris and see what he's done in the self-storage business. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Quick Start Academy Self-Storage Boot Camp. We have a live virtual boot camp coming up November 7th and November 8th. And whether you're in the boot camp or not, I just wanted to have you meet someone other than me who got in the self-storage business as a small investor and has had some success. I think you'll be amazed. I have never done as many transactions in a 1-year period as Chris and his partner have. And you'll hear more about that in just a second. You can find out more about the upcoming boot camp if you're interested. It's my 4-phase strategy that's designed to take you from wherever you are now all the way to putting your first or your next self-storage facility into service in today's weird environment with rising interest rates and low cap rates still. So we'll talk about the strategies that we're using, that people like Chris are using today to be successful at getting in the self-storage business. You can find out more about it at the link below. But what I'd like for you to do in this interview is pay particular attention to not so much the exact things that Chris did, but who he's being, what he has his attention on. I say this a lot. It's important to know what to do, and you got to know what to do to be successful in the self-storage business or any venture. But knowing what to do does not guarantee anything. There's a lot of people who know what to do who aren't successful. Listen to who Chris is being and what his attention on and some of the characteristics that he focuses on that make the difference between getting in the self-storage business, not getting in the self-storage business, being successful or not being successful. I think you'll find it interesting. Let me introduce you to Chris Cashman. I'll see you at the end. Being here, I'd like to introduce Chris Cashman. Chris is someone I've known for, 2 or 3 years now, and has done well in the storage industry. And before we kind of get going and get specific, Chris, tell us a little bit about your background and why self-storage.
Sure, Mark. Thanks for having me on. I love sharing the stuff with you and anyone else. Background is I grew up in Connecticut, to high school in Newtown, a little bit of military, 5 years in the Coast Guard. I got injured my back, went to college during the Coast Guard and after, majored in finance, minored in economics, went into the asset management arena. I ran a very, very small hedge fund out in California for a bunch of years, and then did some separate managed accounts. First real estate was when I was 20 years old. I bought a duplex that was horrible in Warwick, Rhode Island, where I was stationed in the Coast Guard. So I was in real estate in the beginning. My grandfather was in real estate, and some people just kind of pass that down. So you kind of get the itch, and you kind of get involved in it. You get excited about it. You do everything wrong, and then you move on. So I read a lot. I read a lot of books on real estate. I dusted a book off written by David Lindahl as I was moving away from separate managed accounts. And it just hit me. Emerging Markets was the name of the book. And long story short, it's the multifamily asset class that I honed in on. So it was the multifamily asset class that was that the book was relating to, but specifically emerging markets, which I really honed in on. So that was a really good asset class. Things were going well. And then, as you know, COVID hit. Let me back up. Prior to COVID, David Lindahl's brother, Jeff Lindahl, was into self-storage, and he taught some stuff about it. And I never really got it a whole lot. And something triggered a while ago. Before COVID, I wanted to branch into this asset class, and I researched a bunch of stuff. That's when I got in touch with you and your courses and all. There was something that triggered me. Don't remember what it was. Got involved with you and read a bunch of books, everything I could find on self-storage, which thanks for being out there. There's not much out there, but I really enjoyed the book. From there, I got into the boot camp. It took me a while to finally get my first asset. But like you said, I've been successful in it. Once I got that first one, all of the work, the groundwork that you've taught me that I laid out all of the stuff for started to pay off. And then it kind of steamrolled. And that was probably, again, I started before COVID. So whatever that puts me at, 2 years of this now, I guess, or 3.
Two,
Yep.
a little over 2. Yeah.
Yep.
So just to kind of get it out of the way, if people are looking, I'm sitting down here in Florida, out on a deck on the 7th hole of the links golf course. You're in your RV, and where are you?
I just passed through another time zone, which got me confused. Of course, that was easy to do. I'm in western North Dakota, about to bounce down south towards Salt Lake City to meet my friend Terry in Salt Lake City area, and I'm sitting at Fat Fish Brewery, PHAT. So it's a Harvest Host. They allow us to stay here, and as long as I buy a beer and a pizza, I can stay here for free and enjoy the parking lot. So
there you go.
I'm traveling around the country looking at our assets, literally. So it's a work vacation, I guess you call it. So I went up into Minnesota, did a canoe trip for 8 days with one of my partners and a friend, and then I'm coming out to meet Terry, and then we're going to be doing some networking. I'm meeting some investors in California and some partners in California as well. Then we'll meander down south and hit Texas, and I've got a lot of properties in South Carolina, Georgia, and a little bit of North Carolina.
Tell me about your first self-storage deal, and then how many have you gotten into, and maybe about your partnership with Terry.
Sure. Okay. So I'll start with my first self-storage deal. It's kind of a funny one. I had another partner from the multifamily class. So he was really tuned into self-storage and that shift of that asset class thinking. So he really latched onto my ideas. And so he went out and started to find deals for us. So he found this deal in Murphy, North Carolina called Renegade Storage. And we kept the name, it's still there. And he sent it to me. And, Mark, the way you teach the different tiered markets, you've got your Boston and your LA, and then you go down to, first tier, and then your Oklahoma City might be a tier 3. This is Murphy, North Carolina. I would call it a tier 5 or 6. So, the basic stuff, and you and I have had these chats off the subject kind of chats about demographics and the industry norms and industry rules of thumbs. And, we're both kind of reviewing that data and sometimes even questioning some of it. That being said, this was out in the middle of nowhere. It's in Murphy. You can look it up. There's a population of, I have no idea what it is. It's small. So I kept telling Mike, this is great. Thanks for sending me this, but there's no way in heck I would buy something way out in the middle of nowhere. You got no population, and I come from, the economics background where I'm looking at all the things that you teach. In addition to that, I'm looking at the labor statistics. So I want high population. I want jobs growth. I want all these things that drive, these are the drivers of what we do. So I kept telling him no. And he said, you got to look at this thing. You really got to look at this thing. And I'm like, and it's my first deal. I've put in plenty of offers before this. So I was really, really, really hesitant. And he kept nagging me. I said, all right, I'll look at it again. And I look at it again. And when you're new, you're looking at it, but you're teaching me what to look at. And now I'm looking at it, but I still really
see it. You don't see it.
Yeah, no, you don't see exactly. You don't see anything because you're just trying to think what you teach me and the rule of thumbs, and it's not playing out. So I kept drilling down, and I said, all right, fine, let's drill down. Let's get Bobby on the phone. And now I've kind of teamed up and partnered with Bobby, not in a literal sense, but I kind of treat my players around me as teammates and partners. And Bobby Moss is my broker, that he left his firm and kind of said, hey, I want to work with you guys. And that's an informal partnership, I'll call it. So now he's become a friend of mine, and I work closely with him. He was the broker on the deal, and it was through his firm. So I was just really hesitant. So I'm a pretty good negotiator. So I just kept beating him up on price because I wanted to tilt the scales in my favor in case I'm wrong on these numbers. So we ended up getting the deal and contract. We bought the deal. We closed on the deal, brought in our third-party management. met on site, met the seller, Rick, who ironically is now a friend of mine and invests in most all of my deals since we've met. It was a great win-win transaction. He had two partners that he wanted to get out of. So bought the deal, I think, February 1st of 2021. We closed on it. I immediately expanded it. All we do is expansions and conversions. So this was an expansion. And we're in the process of expanding the second and final phase of it. It's really going crazy, to be blunt. It's off the charts. Everything's off the charts. The rent that we thought
how big was the facility when you bought it, and how big is it now?
So I think it was about 22,000 when we bought it. It'll end up being probably 60 when we're done. We're really focusing on climate control. I mean, just the basic stuff, everything you teach. And then all these mom and pops, they're all doing non-climate control and no auto boat, which I give credit to my another seller that I now work with again. He's an architect / GC for me, and I give him the credit for that 12 by 30 with electric and a little light in there for the boats, the bass boats. So the people don't have these other products. So what I'm learning, I'm taking everything you taught me and saying, okay, this is the basic foundation of what I'm going to do and implement. But what I found is it's just a real easy shift to drill down on what's going on out there. All these mom and pops in these tier 4 and tier 5 markets. You look at it, it's either got a fence around it or it doesn't. It's got climate control and some parking, some lines, some painted lines. That's it. So you buy these things and expand them. It's a real easy process if you duplicate it and really drill down and understand the basics of it. So that's been my little, I call it precision focus. And that's really all I do for an expansion. It sounds simple, which I can drill down to any level that you want me to, but that's really what I did in Renegade again. And they had a great product there. They were dramatically underpriced and undermarketed and underutilized. So I went in there and just expanded it. Brought in some box wells, brought in some climate control units, and expanded things. If you apply what you're taught in the courses, but mark your classes, that big thick book that I have, and if you literally apply the stuff that you learn in the courses, you can buy an asset, have stuff go bad, and kick butt. And what I mean by that is Renegade is absolutely kicking butt. The investor returns over 3 years will be somewhere between 50 and 100%. And anytime you want to circle back on that, I'll give you the full-blown numbers to the T. But right now, that's what we're projecting. What I meant by you can buy something, do what you're taught, go out and implement what you're taught, and then things can blow up in your face. You'll still have success because of the basics, the basic skills. So DOT, after we bought it, comes through and says, hey, I had all this covered parking planned right before I started to pull the trigger on it, because they all demanded it. You would pull in there and see the guy in the Class A RV, and he says, hey, and he goes, oh, yeah, great. I love this place. It's great. But, man, I wish you guys had covered parking. I said, well, we're building some right over there. And he goes, I'm in. First one. I don't care what the price is. So we started building covered parking, and DOT comes in and says, hey, we're widening this road. And then they put in all these little stakes. It's so funny because they put in these stakes where they think they might take from me, and then they put in the stake where they know they're going to take from me. It all changes. Months later, we immediately got a DOT attorney, and then I'm a delegator, Mark, so don't ask me about DOT. I delegated that to a DOT attorney, and that's going well. So what I meant earlier about things can go wrong is, we were going to build covered parking. Well, DOT came in and changed all that. There's a lot of insulation in the basic skill set that you're teaching is kind of my point with all that. And Renegade is doing really fabulous. Not all of my deals are doing as good as Renegade. I did a round turn in south of there in LJ, North Georgia. The deck or the investor package, the property package that you send out to your investors, we do syndications typically. We do a couple JVs, but most are syndications. The deck read either 18.5 or 19.5 projected return. That ended up being 30% to the actualized annualized return to the investor. So that was a great deal. Nothing like Renegade, but my investors are very, very happy with it. The value add there was, number one, the expansion. Number two, the 30 to 40% below market. Number three, I do third party management, so I can eliminate that salaried, her name was Melody, $36,000 right out of the gate. Now, I, of course, have to put in my $600 a month for my Patrick, my guy that shows up and does his thing and does the walkthroughs for copper. That being said, it's a model and that was LJ.
So
I'm kind of
your
rambling.
model is that you're for the most part automated. You have a third party management company handle the automation and the online marketing, and then you have almost like a maintenance guy, but boots on the ground at about 600 a month per facility. So
Yep.
with just briefly on Renegade, and then we'll move on. On Renegade, what did you buy it for about? And I know you might not remember the exact numbers. I don't always, but would you buy it for, and what's it going to be worth when you do this final expansion?
I think it was 2.247. It was a weird number because I
Yeah.
was going crazy. The seller and I laugh about that now. I think I paid 2.3-ish, and it'll probably sell for between 5.5 and 6. I say that because I want to be safe, but it's probably going to be 6.
You bought it for 2.3, probably put what, another million and a half in it, and then
No.
Not that much. And then,
No, I'll do just a quickie here. It's going to be done complete for under $1 million.
So you probably got 3 million in the deal, and you've created 2.5 million probably in equity.
Yeah, that sounds about right. A little over 3 at the most. It was basically 100% occupied when we got it.
Now,
and
have you been finding with the mom and the pops you're dealing with that you see a lot of properties that are under market in terms of rental rates, poorly managed? My experience is these mom and pops get very complacent with their cash flow that they're getting, and they just don't want to rock the boat. And they leave so much money on the table. And over the years, I don't want to say they get lazy, but they get lazy.
I absolutely, again, I'm not dealing in Boston or LA. I'm dealing in 2, 4, 5, and 6 markets. And that is absolutely what I see all the time, not some of the time, all the time. And if you think about it, you and I might do the same thing. We're there every day. We're kicking back in our chair, and your tenant rolls up. Hey, Mark. Hey, Chris. Hey, Bobby. How's the boat? How's the fishing? Great. Guy's paying $95 He's kind of our friend. I don't feel like raising his rates, so we don't. So he's at $95. Everyone else is at $135. And this industry is extremely sticky. It's just a really sticky asset class where these people are really dedicated, especially people like, some of the future stuff that I'll be looking at, RV stuff. I'm an RV owner, and I'm sticky. I'm not going to move my RV's location just because my rent went up $10.
So since you've gotten going and you did Renegade, that was your first one. How many self-storage transactions have you done?
It's somewhere between 12 and 15, and we currently have 3 in contract.
12 and 13 and 3 in contract. So what is I don't want to say the secret to your success, but that's a lot of transactions. So
I have a team. I have a great team. And just stick to the basics.
Tell me a little bit about your team.
In your class, another great thing about your class, I met Terry in your class, another student of yours at the same class that I took. But
it was in the follow-up, you all started connecting, I think.
Yeah.
We had a follow-up sessions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it was.
That.
Yep. Yeah, I think Terry tagged along on some of that stuff, and I did, and then a bunch of others did. And then, somehow we just connected. So Terry's been my partner in crime for a while now, ever since he was actually part of LJ. So to answer your question about my team, it's not that big of a team. It's just that I do third-party management, which means I can basically delegate all of that. So I'm not going there and putting up a sign that says manager needed. That's a lot of work. So it's also a profit center, as you know. You go and do that, and you have ancillary revenue. You got boxes and locks and tape, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just to me, that's a lot of work. And but my team consists of Bernice, who does a lot of she's like my partner, but she does mostly my assistant work. If you're going to label, what does she do? She kind of assists me in everything. Made sure it was on this call. We also have 2 new employees. For a month ago, we hired Mackenzie in California and Vonda, who comes to the house in Columbia, banking, going to the PO box. So I would say, administrative support. And then Mackenzie in California does a lot of my dashboard she builds. So I'm looking at, I want to see the numbers and then drive the ship. That's really what I'm focusing on. So Mackenzie helps with my dashboard and coming up with all the numbers that I need to track to make decisions on the assets, when to sell them, when to do these different things that we do. So It's not really a huge team. It's just that most of my deals come from off market and referrals. I told you about Renegade, the seller, Rick, who's my friend and investor now, Blue Ridge Storage Solutions, named Bill, called Rick, they're friends. He goes, "Hey, tell me about this Bobby guy." And Rick goes, "Why?" He goes, "Well, we might want to sell our asset." And he goes, "You don't want to talk to Bobby. You need to just call Chris." So I gave Rick $10,000 finder's fee. So I got it. He said, I want the appraised amount. And I said, "Well, show me the appraisal." Everything he has is brand new RV covered, brand new climate control on a expandable asset to 8 acres in Blue Ridge. His prices are really high. They're 100% full. And I paid him the appraised value and gave Rick $10,000 finder's fee. So my deals come from, I was going to say odd sources, but just from good sources. They're off market or they're just coming from referrals. So
developing relationships.
That's really important. Brokers are tough. I won't lie to you. Brokers are tough. We all, get with a couple brokers and get the relationships, but we all know that it's tough. Brokers are tough to get you're not going to get a hot deal if you don't have any history. It's just not going to happen. But like you said, get in the business and then the deals come. You didn't drive how they came or where they came from, but they come and they come like crazy.
And they've come probably 12 or 13 with 3 or so under contract in a year or two period. That's quite impressive. That's a lot of transactions. One kind of quick note about your investors. So you syndicate a lot of these. Just without going into a ton of detail, just say a little bit about how you syndicate and where you get the investors. And
Sure.
It sounds like that's like a main focus of yours in your role in the company.
It is. A lot of my interest comes in that arena. I have a syndication attorney, and you get a syndication attorney. It's not cheap, but they do what they do. And she'll draft up all your PPM and operating agreements and subscription agreements and all of the stuff that you need to be SEC compliant. And then you hand that to your investors with a deck or an investor package, property package. We all call it different things. I call it a deck. Where do I find my investors? Some of them come from my past, my hedge fund world, if you will. And then just some come from your typical friends and family, which, I learn a lot from what I call my gurus, my teachers, yourself, David Lindahl. If you don't have it, you can go get it. I mean that literally, and I mean that truthfully. I didn't have, in the beginning, I didn't have the money, didn't have the credit, didn't have the investors, didn't have any of this stuff. And to buy a 200 unit, I don't care if it's an apartment building, a storage building, you have to have all these things the banks are going to ask you for: post-closing liquidity, net worth, and experience in similar or same asset size. Okay, a 200 unit self-storage or apartment building, I didn't have that. I had the duplex, I had some other little stuff, did not have any liquidity, and I didn't have any post-closing net worth. So I had to go find it. And it sounds simple for me to sit here and say that, and it's not. It's not simple. It's hard to do, but if you attack it and understand it and ask the right people, well, how do you do that? You can learn how to do it and go do it.
Well, it's not hard. It just takes something. It takes something.
Right. You've got to get plugged into the right people. You got to network. You got to understand the industry, learn the industry, and bring some value to the table. And it'll fall in your lap if you hunt for it hard enough.
Right. So, what would you tell? We'll be ending this soon, and I really thank you for your time. But what would you tell somebody who's in their just getting started, or in their first boot camp, or going to be in the next boot camp in November? What would you tell them that you think would make a difference in their success?
The first thing I would say is stay plugged in, educate. I've said that before. I buy everything I can on self-storage. I read a lot. Find out what you want to do. What do you want to do? Do you want to buy expansions? Do you want to buy a piece of land and build your own little dividend check forever? What do you want to do? Get really extremely focused on that. Come up with your business plan, like Mark teaches. You're always been available, which I love. I plugged into you, Mark. I mean, this is just a basic, perfect example. I bug you with, hey, how did you scale? Hey, how did you do your deal with this and that? And you're always, I don't want to have everybody bug you, but that's what I did. I appreciate it like crazy. I joined up for the boot camp. First, I read your book and then joined up for the boot camp. No, that's not true. First, I asked you for the underwriting. I was too cheap to pay for the boot camp. And then I said, this stuff's really good. And then I paid for the boot camp. And then I met Terry and all that stuff. So, because I wasn't really sure. About this asset class. I'll be honest with you. It's like self-storage. I've been hearing about this my whole life. What's the big deal? I mean, if it's that great, everybody's doing it probably. Well, it took me a long time to figure it out. And it really did. It took me a long time to figure this all out, but I'm really glad I did. And I thank you for that. But to answer your question, I said education, stay plugged in, and I don't know everything. I'm asking questions all the time. So you just have to ask. Nobody's going to get upset. You just ask people and get a team. If you don't have it, build a team. I think some people, they engineers, maybe, I don't know, they want to do it all themselves and they want to, control everything. And, I'm a student of mentors. One of my mentors is Richard Branson. He says, delegate everything you possibly can. So I really, 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 so number one word, educate. Number two, mentors. And I guess that's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
And three, delegate is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, delegate, but control.
You don't delegate accountability. You can't delegate that away. But it's
right.
What I'd like to do is acknowledge you. You're someone who you are for me is someone that I've witnessed who takes action. You don't always know what the outcome's going to be. You don't always know exactly how you're going to get to your goal, but you will take action. And that inspires me. And I really acknowledge that about you. If in my world, if there is some type of characteristic that can predict success, it's the ability to take action even though you don't know all the outcomes and exactly how you're going to get. That characteristic, to a large degree, in my world, is what has you be at 13 deals under, and 3 more under contract or whatever that number is, that allows for those kind of numbers. And also, I've seen you be flexible. You went in to like renegade with a 5-year plan, but you real quickly saw that maybe we should sell it. Prices are good. So do you have the ability to pivot as the market shifts? And I think that's a little bit about what you were talking about, is you can make mistakes and still get a great return. Because if you're present and aware, the pivoting, because the key to success in life is often plan B or plan C.
Yeah, to your point. And then once you started to load up on new deals that I had coming in, as you see the Fed shift interest rates, that allowed me to shift and pivot and say, hey guys, we are buying more deals. I am in acquisition mode. True. I don't want to slow that down or stop that. However, if we can sell something, we can alleviate the stress of having, all these deals without any income. And, you have to make portfolio asset management decisions all at the same time. And that's more my background, which I really enjoy. Maximizing, that's a corporate term, but maximizing shareholder value is like an AT&T thing, or it's a shareholder thing rather. That's kind of what I do in this arena or this space for my investors. And it's just, it's fun to do. And it's great. It's great making investors happy. I love that. My parents are both retired principal and teacher. So I love teaching and educating my investors. And I love giving those checks when they weren't expecting that return and you're sending those checks out. It's a great feeling. And then they're right there for you. I mean, that's if you get that going, then the money will come out of the woodwork.
I want to thank you for you've been very generous with your time and your willingness to give back to other people and mentor people who are coming behind you. That shows me you have an abundance mentality, that there's enough for everyone out there. And I thank you very much. You've been very generous with your time, man. And have fun. Tell your bride hello. And have fun up in western South Dakota.
North Dakota.
Western North Dakota. Okay.
We're near Theodore Roosevelt's park, so we're about to head south to Terry's place down in Salt Lake.
Okay. Well, have fun. See you.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, buddy.
Interesting interview, wasn't it? Chris is quite a character, quite a successful person. There's a lot of things about Chris that I really admire and really like. And what's interesting is his partner that he talked about, Terry's in no way like Chris. They complement each other with strengths and weaknesses. I'll try to have an interview with Terry soon for you. But anyway, I hope this has inspired you. I also want you to know that just because one person's been successful in the self-storage business does not mean that everyone's going to be successful in the self-storage business. You have to apply yourself. You have to be willing to develop yourself as a business person and an entrepreneur. But I hope this has inspired you to let you know what's possible in the self-storage business. Not everyone approaches and designs their business like Chris, but you can design. What's beautiful about this business for the small investor is you can design any business strategy that you want, because there's room enough in this industry for all of us. So thank you very much. I look forward to being with you next week. And if you'd like to find out more about the Self-Storage Boot Camp, click below, and I'll see you next week.